morning and welcome to Frank's School. I'm going on with this. This is the 7th year, 25th day, first video. I'm going about the process of building a screenplay and a soundtrack together for this movie I imagine called Resurrection. And I want to add some thoughts here. What about the tone? You know, the tone, as I understand it, of a work of art is the attitude that the creator of the work of art has toward it. You know, it can be serious, deadly serious, tragic. He can mean to be funny. He or she can mean to be funny. Is it sarcastic? These would be questions of tone. And the tone, I think, in this is ultimately quite serious, but hopefully uplifting. I mean, its major purpose is to give people a dream. Well, as I said earlier in another video, like Swiss Family Robinson did for years. Not a realistic dream. Robinson Crusoe, in a way, did the same thing. But Swiss Family Robinson would be a better example. It's to create a dream. But of course, they have to be entertained as they go. I'm going to erase stuff because this is all so complicated. And then the matter of tone. Like the tone of this act could, I guess, has to be different from the tone of this one. Each one, I suppose, could have a different tone. Now, I don't mean by that musical tone, though. But the matter of keys, musical keys, does come into play. In every large work that I ever conducted or performed in, the keys change from movement to movement. Why? And in what direction do they change? On a composer's forum, I'm going to ask about that because I wonder, you know, horrible thought that I might actually have to do the composing myself. But if I would do so, you know, I suppose, yeah, there's not really much reason why you couldn't do the whole thing in one key, in the key of C, for example. But it's never done that way. And if you're going from one key to another, there's a question of modulations. How do you do that? Or do you just stop and then start up in a new key? It's not usually done like that. Now, I say stretching the envelope because I may be trying to do something that simply cannot be done in a 2-hour movie. I maybe am putting too much in here, which, you know, I'll start pulling stuff out if I have to. Is it too eclectic? Is it too eclectic? Will I be drawing from too many different sources? You know, overall, the score is Baroque, probably, or at least classical. But I also intend to draw from rock and roll of the 1960s, very briefly, when the apprentices show up. So is the whole thing going to be too eclectic? That word, I remember my neighbor introduced me to that word, and he said he hates that. He hates it when things are eclectic. It's an excuse for bad work, he was saying, and I know what he means about that. Now this is important. Scenes. I forgot about scenes. You know, I was going straight from acts to shots. Well, you can divide the acts into scenes. There's various scenes, and then you can divide the scenes into shots. I have no experience at all with creating a movie, or even how they're done. I don't know how it's done. But anyway, I mean, this seems pretty obvious. Felt silly I hadn't thought about it earlier. Possibly impossible. It could be that I'm dreaming up a movie that simply can't be done. I don't know. I'd suggested that already. Now, this business about pulse, I'll deal with that in a second. But speaking about eclectic, well, let me deal here. Batch is there as comic relief. He's going to be set up as a comic relief that's available. And brace yourselves for this. One of the things that's most funny about him is he farts. Not all the time, but almost selectively. It's part of his whole character. I mean, he's fat, he likes to eat, he likes to cook, he likes to drink. And his musical instrument, I think I said elsewhere, is I maybe haven't said it yet, is a slide, his timbre is a slide whistle and a whoopee cushion made into a bagpipe, if it can be done. So he's there for comic relief, which may or may not be necessary. I think it is necessary. It almost always is. And I assume, you know, I look upon it as the way of beginning Act 2 because of the fairly high drama developed by their miserableness in that storm when they first get there. Now I'm going to jump down here for a second. When I was talking about eclectic, well, you know, I had thought about the whole work initially having these 5 or 6 musical themes that are interwoven throughout the whole work. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, I don't think, though. I've come to realize that. The musical theme, each section could have its own musical theme, I suppose. And these 3 tunes, The Happy Farmer, you could Google them, Oats, Peas, Beans, and Barley Grow, and Country Gardens, are associated, they're in the common knowledge, and they're associated with gardening and farming. And they could be in here. They could be part of Bryn's theme, at least at this point. You know, because one of the critical things here is the work of the gardening and the food supply. They're all going to be involved in that. So I'm just erasing it to make it less complicated looking. And you know, I also thought about tempos. When the work becomes overwhelming, and it looks almost hopeless, in a way, these same tunes could be used at a much slower tempo. And the happiness and the joy and the energy would be going away as they get overwhelmed there. So tempo is there. All right, now the pulse. I guess I still want to talk about the pulse. It's not straight out all the same way. The overture, for example, if I were to draw this, I would say the overture, maybe it starts with a kind of a kick, but then it speeds up. If I use Krislagen Todesbanden, it actually goes into an Alleluia, and it speeds up. That's maybe not so important. But then with the assembly, same deal. Now the storm, the end of Act 2, would be dramatic, and then go, oh gosh, and then go into Act 2, which can be sort of regarded as kind of neutral, probably throughout maybe. I'm not sure. The fair, I suppose, should have an exciting time. The work getting overwhelmed, it's going down here probably. The arrival of the apprentices would be an exciting spot. I imagine 10 years after Going Home by Helicopter played on electric guitar, talk about eclectic, as they're zooming down the road, these bicyclists in their bright, gaudy outfits that look like bugs, you know, going by the road and then catching sight, and one of them wrecking. And I've explained that other places, but and the one who wrecks because he sees what's there, and they arrive. And of course the beer fest and the dance. I mean, that all kind of builds to a huge climax in a way. Then Act 5. This is the falling action. So I suppose it would fall, and then the coda, of course, spikes at that point. Boy, I'm embarrassed about that. I didn't know what I was doing there. But the point I'm trying to make is there should be a pulse. And of course, you've got volume available with the soundtrack. And you know, decisions about orchestration, I'm limiting them a good bit because I want to keep the timbre simple enough that it actually reinforces the idea that these ultimately 9 characters, each one with an instrument of their own, actually probably only 8, you know, could make the whole score. And you know, it could even be published as such to be played by a Renaissance band. Well, I'm a little bit ragged with this, but I'm continuing on. Bye for now.